You are stuck in traffic, concrete, exhaust, the perpetual gridlock of modern life. Now, close your eyes and imagine the solution they promised you 60 years ago. No, not a flying car, something better, something faster. Imagine, you step into your backyard, strap yourself into a harness, press a single button, and with a clean, vertical plume of controlled fire, you launch yourself over the neighbor's fence, over the highway, and straight into the sky, your commute, powered by pure rocketry. This was the utopian promise of the 1960s, personal space travel. In the wake of the space race, engineers, drunk on NASA's success, began work on concepts that seem absurd today: the personal rocket pack, the individual vertical takeoff (VTO) vehicle, and even tiny, garage-sized spacecraft. The ambition was simple: democratize the cosmos, bring the freedom of the sky to the suburban driveway. The designs were beautiful, sleek, aluminum-bodied capsules with powerful, tiny combustion chambers. They promised a radical new social structure, eliminating roads and borders, ushering in an era of pure, unbridled individual freedom. The technical problem of propulsion was, they thought, largely solved, but every dream of freedom comes with a hidden price tag. The architects of this future were experts in thrust and trajectory, but they fundamentally misunderstood two things: the corrosive nature of money and the cold, unyielding power of legal liability. They calculated every ounce of thrust, but they ignored the one thing they couldn't calculate: the value of a human life incinerated mid-flight. The official documents claimed the project was technically premature. But the truth is darker, and far more simple. To understand why you still drive a car, we must confront the hidden, terrifying accounting ledger of the rocket age. The origins of the personal rocket lie not in desire for speed, but in military necessity. The early jetpacks were designed by Bell Aerosystems in the late 50s and early 60s for the U.S. Army. Intended for rapid river crossings and quick battlefield repositioning, the military deemed them too loud, too slow, and too fuel-hungry. The technology was quickly declassified. This immediately sparked the private sector's imagination. If the military didn't want it, the consumer market certainly did. This was an era of unchecked, exuberant technological optimism. If we can put a man on the moon, why can't we fly to the grocery store? Companies started designing VTO vehicles, small aircraft that didn't need a runway. The designs were fantastic: the pogo stick rocket, the Hiller VZ-1 Pawnee, a platform you stood on to fly, and the dream of a simple, one-man rocket capsule. The public was obsessed. Every science fiction show of the era featured them. The key technical issue was control. Early jetpacks had only 30 seconds of flight time, often ending in clumsy, near-fatal landings. The VTO rocket designs solved this with sophisticated gyroscopes, but this added weight. Every pound of added safety meant less payload, and less fuel. The engineers solved the control problem, they solved the weight problem, but they failed to ask the single most important question: who is going to pay for this new fuel? Because the cost of a single, quick trip to the neighboring town was more than the average American earned in a month, the promise of personal rocketry ultimately collided with the unyielding law of physics known as the Tsiolkovsky rocket equation. This equation dictates the relationship between the weight of your payload, the efficiency of your engine, and the terrifying mass of the fuel required. To lift a 200-pound person and their small craft vertically and land safely, you need a tremendous amount of propellant. The preferred fuel was often highly volatile hydrogen peroxide or kerosene/LOX, liquid oxygen, the same highly volatile, expensive compounds used by NASA. This brings us to the silent antagonist: the cost of fuel. Consider the Bell rocket belt. It carried 110 pounds of fuel. It burned through that fuel in approximately 21 seconds. At today's prices for that type of highly specialized, refined propellant, a single 21-second flight would cost approximately $16,000 USD. Breaking that down, you are paying over $800 per second just to fly. No one would pay that for a commute. The technology was possible, but the economics were impossible. The designers tried every alternative, compressed gas, solid fuel, but they all failed the safety and sustainability test. The rocket was simply a machine for turning money into noise and heat. The engineers reluctantly accepted that the dream was too expensive. They began shelving the blueprints. But before the projects were quietly closed, the legal department sent a devastating final report. That proved that the cost of the rocket itself wasn't the biggest problem. The true, final killer was not the price of the fuel, but the infinite, uninsurable cost of human error. If a person flies a personal rocket, who is responsible when they crash? The legal implications were a nightmare of unprecedented scale. Unlike a car crash, a VTO failure means an explosive descent from a great height onto a crowded area. The pilot would not only endanger themselves but also neighbors, infrastructure, and an unknown number of third parties on the ground. Insurance companies ran the numbers and came to a unified conclusion: uninsurable. No insurer would issue a policy for a personal vehicle that carried enough volatile fuel to level a city block. The sheer liability of a rocket landing on a school or a skyscraper meant the risk was infinite. This was the final, fatal blow from the boardroom, not the lab. Furthermore, air traffic control and regulation presented an insurmountable barrier. How do you manage thousands of untrained citizens flying randomly at different altitudes? The FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, would have needed an entirely new branch dedicated to managing garage-to-office missile traffic. The regulatory overhead crushed the concept before it ever received a commercial green light. The dream of personal rocketry was abandoned, but the technology didn't entirely die. The lessons learned about compact power, thrust-to-weight ratio, and propulsion control were quietly absorbed. They didn't give us the personal rocket, but they did give us the direct ancestor to a piece of technology you use almost every day, and its success is a direct result of solving the problems the VTO rocket failed to conquer. The VTO rocket failed to give us personal flight, but its technology evolved. The precise control mechanisms, the miniaturized engines, and the gyro-stabilization systems didn't vanish. They were adapted for modern, safe, and efficient systems. The quad-rotor drone. The drone is the ultimate, non-lethal, non-explosive successor to the personal flying machine. It is cheap, highly controllable, and its payload is managed by computers, not reckless human ambition. The industry learned that the problem was not flying, but the human in the loop and the volatile fuel source. By removing both, they achieved commercial success. The rocket that never flew taught the world a critical lesson about utopian technology. Innovation must be proportional to responsibility. The dream of escaping traffic with a rocket was magnificent, but the cost to human safety and the economy was simply too high. True progress comes from finding the ethical, insurable path forward, even if it means sacrificing the radical dreams of the past. The story of the personal rocket asks a simple, terrifying question. If the fuel cost $5 per second, not $800, would you fly one to work? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. This was never built. We'll see you next time as we dive deep into another lost future.